Alright, so you think you're ready to DM? Let's start small. Let's run a one-shot. When designing a game that is meant to take roughly 4 hours or so, you have some constraints placed on you. But also, it could be insanely freeing. Yes, those statements kind of conflict with each other, but it'll all make sense soon. The first point is that one-shots have to keep moving. The pace has just got to be going. Otherwise, you're gonna run over time or not finish. So you're constrained to smaller stories, limited set pieces, and yeah, restricted player freedoms. But also, on the other hand, your world can be as vague and non-existent as you like. You don't have to worry about politics, multiple locations, or even remembering what certain NPCs looked like or sounded like. You can just make stuff up and it'll work, and you never have to go back or think about it ever again. Also, you can reward your players like crazy. You can end the game with them becoming millionaires or gods. It doesn't matter. They'll be happy, even if it will never affect your regular game and they never see these sheets again. They'll end this one-shot happy, and that will make them want to play more of them. When I write a one-shot, I usually limit myself in certain ways so that I don't run over time. In no particular order, I like to have there be no more than 3 combats, but usually I just keep it to 2 so that way they can be more interesting. And I usually only have 2 or 3 big conversational set pieces, so that's meetings, planned arguments, I lump puzzles into that as well, obstacles essentially in the path to glory. And another rule, there can be absolutely no large travel sections or overly complicated traps or puzzles unless that is the entire point of the one-shot. This is because combat will destroy your economy in terms of time and scale for your one-shot, so just cut it out and gloss over it if you need there to be travel from one location to another. Just simply say, it happens. Obviously, these rules can and have been broken. The Halloween one-shot that we ran here on the channel did not follow any of them, and that's what made it collapse into a 2-shot. But today, I'm going to use 2 known good examples for this video. Ones that I know were finished in a single session, and that way, hopefully yours will too. For the next section of this video, we're going to be making some one-shots. Along with them, we're going to have visual timelines, either on the top or the bottom. I don't know which, I haven't decided yet. The red sections are going to symbolize combat, blue will be for conversations, green is for travel, and yellow is for puzzles and traps. You get the idea. Let's go. Firstly, a dungeon. I've run plenty of dungeon crawl one-shots, and for those who haven't, here's how I like to structure them. Again, this is a general guide, not hard instructions. This is just the method that I've found to get it to work within the constraints of one single 4-hour session. So, you begin in a tavern. You have your group already know each other, give them 20 minutes to chat and get familiar with what characters they've brought to the game. You should be able to assess when a conversation gets stale and wrap it up. So you can let them talk until it feels natural to end the conversation, or you can let the conversation play out to about that 15 or 20 minute mark and then artificially insert an ending. You can have a fight break out or something else similar. Basically, give them a method to get used to their abilities, but have it be small. I'm talking like 1 bandit per character, and maybe include a leader. They should finish this fight in 30 minutes or less, 2 rounds tops. If they don't, it's irrelevant to the story, so you can close the book on it and move on. Force an ending. Make them retreat. You can let them screw around more later on. After that, have an unknown person, you know, like an old lady, a businessman, a noble, whatever. Just some random person come up to them and say they were impressed. They saw how well they performed and they needed help solving a problem, and they think these are just the guys to do it. Their family heirloom widget thingy and all of their gold were stolen by goblins, and they took their stuff to a cave high up in the mountains outside of town. They were hoping these heroes could go and get it back for them. In reward, they could keep the gold. They just want their widget back. It could be a locket, a ring, their lucky brown glass, whatever. So long as they get that thing back, that gold is theirs. Plus, whatever else they find along the way. Next, the journey there should be glossed over. You could give them 10 minutes to chat amongst themselves or not. It's up to you. I'm gonna assume that they'll talk while you prepare maps or something, and so it's always better to assume that you have less time than more and just cut the journey. And now you have 2 hours and 50 minutes or so for the dungeon, minus the end game events, so more like 2 hours 40, 2 hours 45, depending on how fast of a wrap-up you want. I'm going to roughly gloss over the whole dungeon making since I've already done a how to homebrew dungeons video, which you can check out right there. You should probably do a light combat in the beginning of the dungeon, build it the same or slightly harder than the first one in the game, maybe don't raise hit points but maybe raise damage by a tick or two, and make these guys have some information relevant to the dungeon now, knowledge on traps or their leader's abilities or maybe even weaknesses, things that will make this fight useful in some way other than just being a fight. Then you can insert a small puzzle, something so insanely simple that a toddler could solve it. Because puzzles in D&D, no matter how simple you think they are, always seem harder when you're on the other side of that DM screen. And big tip, visuals help players understand and solve puzzles faster and more efficiently. So if you can give them something to look at, that'll make it all the better. And then give them a minute time to chat, stealth, get through some traps. Really just, I don't know, enjoy the game? And then comes time for the final boss, some sort of mage/warrior, a fast one who can take a hit and hit back as hard. You need a single enemy that your table can pile onto and not be overwhelmed. So give them legendary actions. I don't care how low of a level they are. Give them legendary actions. And then we do a wrap up. We have them make it back to the village, return the trinket, get the gold, and walk off into the sunset together. Ta-da, a standard one-shot. But you could also do something else a little different. I once ran a one-shot that I still think about to this day. I loved it so much that I put it up on Patreon completely for free, coinciding with the launch of this video. And I did so because that's just how much fun it was and I wanted to give it to all of you. This was a superhero high school one-shot, a la Sky High, the greatest movie of all time. I ran it with 6 players and it went phenomenally well for that number. The one-shot goes as follows. You begin simply describing what your student was doing prior to their PE final, what class you were in, what activity you were doing, were you in the AV room or ditching at the mall. The players initiate this one-shot, not really you. Then you instruct them all to head to the gym because it's time for the PE final. It's different every year, but this year it's a group obstacle course. You are timed, and it's done in a loose sort of initiative. The party is the last team to be announced, and they're all going to be together because it'd be cruel to not do that. And the other teams have been sized up or down behind the screen to be within 1 character of theirs, which is equal or less, not more. So if you have 6 players, all the other teams will have 5 or 6, characters on them. You then draw straws, which means that one player rolls a die. Higher is better. And then behind the screen, you will have already picked numbers for the other teams, and their number will determine how late they're going. The higher the number, the later they are in the order. And that's better because it gives them time to watch, learn, and strategize based on what the other teams did and failed to do in the obstacle course. Then it's time to run it. You describe what the other teams did on their way through the course, then the players go, then the last of the teams run it if there's any after the players. After the course is done, and they're done with their final for, in this superhero high school, it's time to encounter the bullies, the team that they no doubt beat and is very angry about them beating it. They will antagonize the players, try to get them to throw the first punch and get in trouble, to risk not graduating. It's completely up to the players whether or not a fight ensues, however, you're gonna make them want it. After the fight, or just the heated argument because he was listening in, the gym teacher tells the players to head over to the mall to cool off, to take a break, get a short rest, and wait until he calls them because he's on their side and this needs to be reported. At the mall, they get a short rest, they can talk and de-stress for a minute. Then an explosion can be heard as a supervillain, Grimoire, has broken into a jewelry store on the other side of the mall. They're going to rush over there, hopefully beat him down, and save the day. The party then returns to the school, learns the outcome for their punishments from the incident. Most likely, nothing is going to happen. It was the last day after all. And then they graduate into the wider world. The end. So yeah, a fun little adventure for you to bring to your table, and hopefully a new way to think about structuring one-shots, because they don't have to follow the method that we used with the dungeon. Now, how do you decide what puzzles are too hard and what combats are too much? As a refresher for how I do this, you need to know your party before you start working on really very much of anything. You need to guess at how proficient your players are going to be at puzzles and how proficient their characters will be in combat. For said puzzles, think small. I'm talking like Skyrim rotating door locks and matching pictures to words in foreign languages. Your players will not solve them easily. It does not matter how simple they are, so you can really dumb it down. And for monsters and combats in general, try to make them all take 3 rounds or less, except for the final one, which you should roughly have at about 5 rounds or so. To do this honestly, you'll have to guess at the average damage of your party. If you're going to have, for an example, 4 level 4s, wizard, cleric, druid, and fighter. You can guess that the wizard is going to deal maybe 6 damage in a turn, since sometimes they're going to magic missile and others they're going to frostbite. The cleric and druid will be split between attacking and healing, so you can guess maybe 5 damage for each of them average, and the fighter maybe 8 or so if they're using a greatsword or something. That's all assuming that they even hit or whatnot, and so then maybe they'll do more damage if they crit, or maybe less if they miss a lot, but with that, to take 3 turns or less, the enemy hit point pool should not exceed 70 or so, because, man. And the final boss, probably about 100 is the max I'd give them per hit points. Again, because, man. And for your enemy's damage, make it hurt. Wear your players down. Still assuming the same party, I'd go with an average damage of like 7 per hit. Maybe 5 for low-level bandits, 9 or 10 for the BBEG, and if you can do some 1 or 2 time per day things, make them bigger, and other little abilities that are used at range, maybe have them be a little bit less. For loot, make cards. The easier to understand an item is, the faster your player is going to get used to it and just add it to their arsenal. So for a one-shot, make everything very simple, like +1 weapons, spell scrolls, potions. Keep it light on the reading, but make it powerful and unique. Something that a player will use by the end of the one-shot. Something that they'll actually need. And remember what I said at the top. Travel eats one-shots. I once played in what was supposed to be a dungeon crawl one-shot that wound up just being 3.5 hours of preventing our boat from sinking and 30 minutes of bickering with a demon in a cave. Yeah, that was a weird one. And in the second part, because, yep, it collapsed into a 2-shot, we all just died anyway to a beholder who muddled our minds and made it seem like we were fighting him, but really we were just standing still and dying at full hit points to a death saving throw ray. So yeah, this is why I structure one-shots the way I do, to prevent that. Once you have an idea, you can build it into this flow, trim away the unnecessary bits, and fill it up with loot. Thank you all for watching, everyone. I hope this video was helpful and maybe allowed things to make some more sense when it comes to building adventures in this game. I'll see you all around with more D&D content, but for today, guys, I think that's it. Bye.